All right, give me a second. We are connecting. Give me a second, folks. We are good, getting live and connecting, friends. Hello, hello. All right. All right, friends, here we go. So sorry about that. Just making sure things are uploaded online. So, all right, friends, this is going to be a little bit different today. We're doing a personal build. Most of the streams recently have been for client commissions. This is a build for my personal collection. This is a board I've been waiting for several months. As soon as I saw it announced at the beginning of 2025, I knew I had to have it. So I'm really excited. So kind of already taken a look at it, but this is a board from GeonWorks over in South Korea. It's probably one of my favorite designers in the space. So let me kind of open this up. So this is a 40% from GeonWorks. So Geon, this is his first foray into the world of 40%. Now 40% keyboards are one of the smallest form factors of keyboards. They're really niche, they're really obscure, and they're really fun. So this is a Cherry MX based build, so this should be a relatively quick stream. Should probably be done here at the top of the hour. But it's a really cool board, so really cool. So it's inspired by the 722 TKL, which I actually have a 722. So I'll put the actual case to the side. I want to go over all the goodies we got inside here. So kind of took a look at things. So we'll put the case to the side. But we got some hardware, we got some feet. We also have some additional hardware as well. We have a PCB. As you can see, it is a little bitty baby PCB, so it's really small. So one thing I always do when I order boards is I always order a spare PCB. I kind of learned the hard way with one of my rarer boards. When either you break a PCB or when it gives out, trying to find a new one, especially a custom one, is really hard to do. So just kind of a rule of thumb, if you're buying a board, especially something more obscure that doesn't use a PCB standard, always pick up a spare PCB. You never know. And again, here's the gasket. This is a gasket mount. And then we have the actual PCB that we're going to be using today. So it's really small. It's just a little bitty baby PC. So it's really kind of cool just seeing how small this is and looking at this really kind of tiny and interesting form factor. So really cool PCB. Red PCBs are awesome. So really cool board. We also have the JST connector. This is going to connect our USB-C port, which is really nice. And then, of course, we have our aluminum plate. So let me open this up, and we'll see our aluminum plate here. So, of course, Geon, really good. You can see that GeonWorks F1-40 722. So really cool little board. So really excited. This should be a relatively quick build, but this is a board I've been genuinely excited to build. And again, it's going to be part of my personal collection. So this isn't for a client. This is for me, which is really cool. So let me put some of these extra things to the side back in the case just to make sure we keep things nice and organized. So I'll put the little bag the plate came in. I'll put in my extra PCB over here, my gaskets, and then my hardware. So we're going to put those to the side. And we're going to get this board built. So again, this is a solder only build for the purposes of this build. So that's really nice. But the first things first, as we kind of do, I want to kind of do a quick little comparison to its big brother, the Geon F1 722. So this is my keyboard I have on my desk for today. So this is my F1 722. Really cool board. If you can look at the side profile, it's just a nice wedge, really clean board. Has this polished steel accent piece, which is really cool. So really, really cool, really clean board. It's absolutely gigantic. It's a standard TKL. This is actually my Orange Alps build. So really cool board. So that's my Orange Alps with DCS 9009. And then, of course, we have the F1-722. So you can see, I'll just put it on top of the keycaps. It's so little. As you can see, it's just a little baby keyboard. So it's really cool. So it's tiny. So they're called 40%. So they're really, really small. One thing that's about this one, I wanted to make sure. My GM boards, I like having the Windows key blocker. So I made sure to get the Windows key blocker on this one. So it also has that polished steel accent. And then on the bottom, with most Geon boards, you're going to have a little badge on the bottom identifying what model it is. So it says F1-40 722, 40%. Again, this is made of 60-63 aluminum and has a typing angle of 9 degrees, and it also weighs 1 kilogram. So really cool. And of course, this was manufactured in Korea. So really, really cool board. So it's nice having kind of both 722s now. So again, we have the big brother, the F1-722, and then of course we have the little 40%. So I'm gonna put my TKL to the side because that will be my board I'll use for chatting and whatnot. So that's really cool. So we're just gonna put that to the side. There we go, friends. So really cool board. Really enjoy working with it. So that's what we're gonna do. But most of the work today is gonna be with the PCB. So one thing I do want to do is put this to the side. So I'll kind of show you both pieces. So it is a top and a bottom case. So we have our top case made out of aluminum. We, of course, have our polished steel accent, which is really nice. And then, of course, we already have installed our gaskets. So these little black lines, those are the gaskets. That's going to give us our nice gasket mount. Of course, we have a nice brass weight in the very bottom of this case. So it gives the board a nice little hefty weight. But it's a really nice, simple board. This is a very, very simple build today. So first things first, I want to install our JST USB port connector. So that's just going to screw in right there. So we already have our wire connected, so that's going to be really nice. This is a really simple build. We only have 2 stabilizers we got to do. So nice and simple build today. So let me just get my screwdriver, and we'll kind of go through it. And I'll kind of explain to you some of the other parts we're going to do in terms of keycaps and also switch selection. So this is a Cherry MX based build today. So most of you have maybe been following, checking out my stuff. Most of it has been Alps, but I do love Cherry MX. They do have those builds have a special place in my heart. They're really fun, so it's going to be really nice. So we're just screwing this one in. But yeah, Geon, probably one of my personal favorite designers within the custom mechanical keyboard hobby. Geon and his team are really, really great. They produce some really high-quality things over in their factories. So they're based out of South Korea, and they do some really amazing things. Again, I have several of Geon's boards in my personal collection, and also I've done a ton of client commission builds utilizing GeonWorks boards. So Geon is definitely someone I recommend. He's someone whose boards I would buy with my own money, and for the client commission builds I've been doing, he's someone I absolutely recommend for client commission builds. And the thing that's nice about Geon, they have things in a wide variety of price points. So Geon does produce things that are super uber high end, but they also have things that are much more affordable. So we're going to put the case to the side for right now, because we're really mostly going to be focusing on the PCB assembly. So we have our plate and we have our PCB assembly. So what we're going to be doing, I want to pull up a window on my computer that kind of gives me a layout of the Geon F1. So there's a wide variety of layouts you can use with this. So I just want to make sure, I'm going to pull up on my main screen the actual layout of the board, because that's going to be really important in terms of helping me figure out what layout we are going to be going with. So 40% are pretty interesting boards. Another thing too, we're gonna, as we get the board together, you have to be you're very limited on keycaps. So that's a really kind of big and important thing we really want to do. So we're gonna make sure that we're really mindful of how we utilize our keycaps for this particular build. So the switches that we're gonna be soldering in today are going to be some Gateron Smoothie linears. So these are really, really nice switches from Gateron. They're linears. They have a actuation force of about 45 grams, so pretty standard weight. So really nice switches. I have the Gateron Smoothie linears over in one of my builds. So this is just kind of the other ones that are really nice. Really, really nice set in series. So we're going to kind of figure out the plate, and we want to, the first thing is figuring out our space. Again, we're going to have split space bars on this particular board. So I can kind of rotate where I want my space bars. They're going to be two different sizes. So let me show you the keycap set that we're going to work with. And we are going to be using GMK Dualshot. So really, really cool keycap set. I got this set a few months ago. And I found a really good deal on it that had all the additions I needed for a 40% keyboard. So it's really, really nice having all of those in here. So I want to pull up the two keys I need that we're going to start off, which are going to be our space bars, which are going to be our stabilized keycaps. So I want to pull those out. So we're actually going to be working with these two keycaps right here. So we're going to have a split space bar. So we have a 2.75U space bar, and then we're going to have a 2.25U space bar. So one thing with 40%, there's a ton of keys that are missing on 40% keyboards. So we're going to be using layers. One of the nice things with a split spacebar is you can use one of the space-bars to activate a layer, whether that to be numbers, F rows, or other functions on the keyboard. So it's really, really nice being able to have those layers. So we're kind of show you all on the plate the way this layout kind of works. I can either have a spacebar right here, or I can have a spacebar right here. The way I like to set up my 40%, I'm going to put my bigger 2.75U spacebar right there, and then put my other smaller 225 spacebar right there. So we're going to have to figure out the spacing for both of these space-bars. So I want to get my two stabilizers assembled, and then we'll kind of figure out the approximate spacing that we want to do to kind of make sure that these space-bars are in the correct orientation. So that's going to be our first thing, and also figuring out, we also do have an option to put our shift and our function keys in different spots too. So also figure out the spacing for those two keys as well. So that's going to be kind of, that's really kind of the only variation in terms of what we can do with this particular switch set. So I want to get the other switches as well. The other keycaps as well. They're going to give us some kind of variation. So I need a alt. So I need my alt, and then I need a 1.25 shift. So we're going to pull those keycaps out. So I'm going to get my function. And then I need my shift, which is going to be a 1.25 shift. Where the heck are you? So that's what happens when you have one of these like really, really big keycap sets. You got to find those other switches, which are kind of small. So let's find them. They're in here. Give me a second. Let me look at my keycap my keycap layout. I should have them in here. Give me a second. Just looking at the does my 1.25 shift look like? So, because this is a pretty interesting one, so my obscure. So it's going to be blue. Okay, here we go. I found my shift. So there we go. 1.25 shift. There we go. Awesome, folks. Again, this is a very big keycap set. I had to buy a ton of different add-ons, and it was kind of cool. I got a really good deal for this set on eBay, and they had the base kit plus all the addition extra sets that I need. GMK isn't cheap to begin with, but once you start adding all the add-on kits, GMK sets get freaking expensive really, really quickly. So these are the keys that we need just to kind of figure out the spacing. Everything else is pretty standard, but these are the keys where we have variation on the actual layout. So we're going to put these to the side for right now, and we're going to figure out our stabilizer. So we're going with Durock V3 stabilizers. Some people kind of criticize Durock's. I really like Durock stabilizers. I think they're really good for what they are. And what's really nice about them is for the money, you can't really beat them. And really with Durock stabilizers, as long as you properly lube them, you're not going to have any issues with them. So that's the one nice thing. So we're going to be doing some lube with some dielectric grease, and we're going to get the wires out. But overall, if you just properly lube Durock stabilizers, you're not going to have any issues. So that's the one nice thing about these. So we're just getting out our 2U wires. So we only have 2 stabilizers on here, but this is a relatively quick build today because it is a Cherry MX build, and we only have to solder in like 40 switches. So really, really quick build. I think probably the hardest part is just figuring out the stabilizers. So we're going to get our stabilizers out. So these are some stabilizers that I ripped out of an old build. So we're just going to re-lube them and use them in this build. So that's going to be really nice, making life a little bit easier. So we're going to put those in, put those away. We have our screws and our washers. We just want to look at this PCB again, make sure we got a 1.6. We have a 1.6, not 1.2. Awesome. So we don't need any stabilizer shims for this one. But we're going to go through and take these stabilizers apart, and then we are going to be lubing them. Just adding a little bit more lube on these, and then we're going to get these nice and assembled. So really nice, easy build today. But this is, again, one of my personal builds. So I'm really, really excited for this board. This board was kind of teased by Geon back in January of this year, and as soon as I saw this board, I knew I absolutely had to have it. And it just, the one thing with Geon, he very much takes his time on his research and development for boards. So when you see Geon tease or drop product, it may be a year or two before you ever see the board go to group buy or even go on sale. So, but that's the one that's actually something that's really good about Geon. He's not going to release an incomplete product or a product that's not good. So, and another thing too, this is not a sponsored stream by GeonWorks. I'm just a really big fan of what they do, and I own many of their boards, and they're absolutely boards that I would recommend to people. And again, I've done a lot of different client builds where people are paying me to build them keyboards, and we usually one of my top recommendations are going to be Geon boards. I own several different Geon boards, and I just got a few in the other day. And on top of this one, and there's other Geon boards in the future, like I would that he is teased, that he's still kind of doing the R&D on them and prototyping, that I would definitely love to have in my collection. Geon's just his philosophy and his mindset to design, and also just accessibility to the boards is really nice. One thing about Geon that I really like too is he will sell as many boards for a particular design as people want to buy. So Geon doesn't do this thing, oh, I'm only going to make 100 units. Like, Geon will have like a minimum order quantity that he has to sell for a board to go through, and he usually meets that no problem. For example, if the MOQ is like 100 boards and he sells 400 of the boards, he's not going to have any problem selling those extras because it's more money, and it gets the boards into more hands of people who actually want those boards. And another thing that's really cool about Geon too is many designers don't own the actual manufacturing capability. So they'll do the design work and then they send the design files over to a manufacturer, preferably somewhere over in Asia, and you're there paying that manufacturer for the manufacturer's time to manufacture those boards. One thing that's cool about Geon and what makes them really unique, Geon owns his own CNC factory. So from the very beginning, for the actual R&D of the design to eventual conception, interest checks, and then the eventual manufacturer, and then final quality control, and then shipping, all is done in-house by Geon. So something that's really nice is they really control everything from beginning to end for the Geon product. So, and also within like the mechanical keyboard hobby within South Korea, Geon is very much a very revered and very respected brand. But not only in Korea, but also abroad. If you talk to people in other parts of the world, again, if you see someone with a Geon board, those are pretty cool boards. And the people, usually when you bring out a Geon board to like keyboard meet, people really think it's really cool and have a lot of good things to say about it. So Geon very much is someone who is very well respected within the hobby. And I very much enjoy, again, building in his boards and, again, just having his boards in my personal collection. This is a board that I paid with my own money. This was not sent to me by Geon. Geon is not sponsoring this stream to say these things. This is just something I genuinely believe in as a consumer who has bought many of his boards with my own money. So this is a really cool board, and for a 40%, it was actually a pretty good deal, to be completely honest. And this is probably going to be Geon's first and last 40%. 40% are very niche and very obscure. They don't have the wide market appeal of like 65% or like the TKLs or full sizes. So they're very much a niche. So when 40% come to market, there's not a lot of really great options because most of them are going to be very small runs. Because there just isn't the demand there. This 40% community is very small. If you want a really cool 40% community, there's a Discord server called for 40% keyboards. The people are unusual there, but it's a server I very much enjoy. And if you're interested in getting into 40%, so the 40% server over on Discord is a really good place to start. The people over there are very knowledgeable, and they can really kind of show you the ropes and give you buying recommendations or make you aware of group buys or boards that are coming to market. So, and I know a lot of people over in that server were very excited for this board to come to market. Which is really cool. And I think Geon is partnering with some other designers to make 40%. He would just do the manufacturing, not the design. So, which is really interesting. So, again, 40%, there's a lot of really interesting designs. And I have a few 40%. I have a Singa Neko, which is really cool. I have a minivan. I have a Highton 40. I also have a Lazy Designers Duo 40 on Group Buy, which should probably be coming within the next month or two. So, a big fan of 40%. And it's funny, I just bought another 40% this morning. KBD Fans is doing a a board called the Agar Mini. It's a 40% version of their Gar 60% board. So it's an HHKB 40% keyboard. But what really intrigued me, they have one that's fully made of brass, and it's actually a Topre version. So because all of my 40% are going to be Cherry MX. No offense to my Cherry MX boards, I love them. But to have a 40% in Topre and also fully made of brass and make it absurdly heavy, heck yeah, that's sign me up. So it's really kind of cool. So we have our stabilizers lubed. I want to get my screws and washers out, and then we'll kind of figure out the spacing of where our stabilizers need to go. So let me just get those. We just need 4 screws for this one today. Perfect. We'll use those ones that already have the washers on them. Makes life a little bit easier. Awesome. Oh, put one more screw away. Perfect. We'll put those away. Most of our stabilizer pieces we'll put away, put them to the side. We're kind of done with those, but really cool board. Really, really nice overall. So really excited. So we're going to kind of figure out the spacing for this particular board. So I'm just going to kind of see how we're going to do it. I'm going to kind of play around with spacing and just kind of see how we can do it. So I'm just playing around with spacing right now. Okay, let's see. I'm going to move one. We're just gonna, this will be a little bit of trial and error. Geon really doesn't explicitly say which holes it goes into. Yeah, there's no real labels on here. So, interesting stuff. So, alright. Let's put my plate on and let's see if that goes. Okay, I didn't completely break it, so that's nice. So we're gonna put we're gonna get 4 switches out. I wanna get one more switch out of my switch box. I wanna get another alt. 1.25 alt. Yeah, 125 alt. Because that's what we're going to kind of figure out. Perfect. So another switch. So we're just going to kind of play around with the spacing right now. So just so we can make sure that everything is good. So we're going to put some switches in here and just kind of line up everything roughly. We're not soldering anything in just yet. We're just figuring out the spacing of how I want my space bar set up. Because that's really kind of important. Because I'm very particular in how I like my 40% to be set up. So, but yeah, also, if you are curious about 40%, definitely check them out. They're very niche, but they're really fun. One kit, 40% kit that's really awesome, really affordable is the coffee van kit. It's by Coffee Break Keyboards. You can get the kit for like $80, and it's hot swap. It comes with the case, comes with the plate. You just put your switches in and find a set of keycaps, and you're good to go. So, and my minivan is actually used as a coffee van PCB, which is really kind of cool. All right, this is my 275, so we're just going to figure out our spacing. Okay, that's too far over, so that's good to know. So, we're going to pull our switches out. There we go. We're going to adjust my stabilizer. I think we got to go over one more just to figure out that spacing. Awesome. Let's pull these. I push my spacebar ones out. I just want to make sure our spacing is good to go, folks. So, again, this is a relatively quick stream we're doing today, folks, so nothing too crazy. All right, let me just push that one out, too. All right, cool. All right, now, let's push that Alt key in. Let's put a switch right here. All right, now, let's put this space bar right here, my big space bar. Oh, that sounds nice. All right. So that spacing is good. So now let me see if this spacing is good. Yeah, really good. So we got that stabilizer spacing good. That's nice. So let me put that one in. Oh yeah, look at that. We got a bottom row. Got our nice little bottom row. And let's put this alt right here just to make sure that that spacing is good. And look at that, folks. We have a bottom row right here for our space bar. So we have split space bars, which is really nice. I'm going to screw in my stabilizers right now just to make that a little bit easier. So we have our stabilizer spacing, which is really nice. And then we can really just get our switches in here. So these are really nice little switches, and this is a really fun keycap set. So just screw these stabilizers in. Awesome. And then we'll get everything going. This is a really awesome board. I am really excited for this board. So really, really nice board. And this PCB is gorgeous. I think it's red PCBs, or I have a soft spot for red PCBs. I mean, yellow and green and purple PCBs are cool too, but I don't know, something about a red PCB is just cool. I mean, you're never going to see it. Once it's in the case, you're never going to know it has a red PCB. Oops. Let's make sure we get our stabs in, and then we have our stab spacing good. And that is pretty awesome. Okay, let's put those in. Awesome. We have our stabilizers in, folks. So we have our 2 space bars. And I want to pull out 2 more switches because I want to figure out my shift and my function key spacing as well. Everything else is pretty standard. So again, you can alternate where you want these space bars, which is really nice. Or you could do a full 6.25U space bar, which really wasn't a fan of that. I like the more symmetrical thing, especially with the Win keyless blockers. So let's figure out how we're going to be doing our shift. So I'm going to just kind of play around with the spacing and kind of see how that goes. So that should be that. Okay, that looks pretty good for that spacing, and I think we're going to go over here, and then function will be right there. And there we go. We got our spacing for our shift, our split right shift, and that's looking pretty good. So we have our spacing, folks. Those are our variable keys, so that's really good. So I'm going to take these keycaps off, and we're going to put them to the side. We're pretty much done with keycaps until we get done with soldering. So let me take my space bars off really quick. Oh, there we go. And there we go. I want to do one last little bit of lubing really quick. So let me just pull these little puppies out. Awesome. Put those to the side. I just want to do a little bit of lube on my stabilizers really quick, and then we'll be good to go. And then we'll be good to start inserting switches and then soldering this in. This is a very quick build, folks. Again, it's not as involved as like an Alps build, which is really nice. I mean, I love my Alps builds, but I did a couple builds yesterday on stream, and those were really, really involved. We were working on them for about 4 hours yesterday, so Alps, very much more involved builds, especially if you're doing like 2 of them back to back. All right, folks, so there we go. So I want to put my lube away, and then my stabilizer component parts away, and then we are good to start putting switches in and to begin the process of soldering. So that's really good. So let me get these in here. Let me just line up these pins really quick, and then we'll get our spacing going. Awesome. Got our little assembly. I'm just pushing down these switches just so they're nice and flush. And then there we go, folks. So now we're going to put in the rest of again, these are Gateron Silver Smoothie switches. So these are really, really nice switches. I'm a big fan of Gateron's switches, and most of their switches are just awesome. Like again, a lot of the switches I have in my personal switch inventory and a lot of my personal Cherry MX builds utilize Gateron switches. So that's something that's really nice. So they make some really good stuff. So if you are getting into the keyboard hobby, definitely look at Gateron switches. They're really, really good. They make some really good stuff over there. And they've been really killing it in the market the last few years. So we're just putting in the rest of our switches. There we go. We're not putting the 2 switches right here because this is a Win keyless board, so that's really nice. So we're just going to put in the rest of our switches right here. Again, this is a really quick little build. I really enjoy it, so we're just going to put in the rest of these switches. And again, this is a very quick stream. We're probably going to be done here in probably the next 20 or so minutes. So really, really simple build today. Really quick stream. I've had this board for a couple of days, but I had my client commission builds that I had to take care of, and those were kind of the priority because I was gone at Comic-Con last week. So I really didn't have the time to build those builds. So I really wanted to get the builds out to the clients before I did any of my personal builds. So this is really, really nice. And we have some really fun streams coming up, which will be really nice in the coming weeks, which will be really cool. Some potential cool collaborations with other creators and some companies. So a lot of really fun and exciting things to do, folks. And again, I'm never going to claim to be a professional. I am just a guy who likes messing around with keyboards and messing around with tech. So if you want an actual professional, go find the actual pros like Frank or Teja or those folks. I am just a guy who's messing around. So, but hey, we're here to have fun. So if you are here, thank you, friends. It is definitely a good time. So, but this is a really cool little build. I really enjoy having it. The VOD will be on YouTube later today, folks. So this is primarily on Twitch right now. But if you want to watch the full version of this stream, I just realized simultaneously streaming to Twitch and YouTube really was just kind of a pain in the butt for me. So when we do the live streams, it'll be here on Twitch. And then again, the recording of this full live stream will be put up on my YouTube channel later today. So that just makes things a little bit easier. So there we go. We got all our switches. Put those to the side. And then there we go. So there's our little switch assembly. So it's a little baby board. So it's tiny. 40% are small. I mean, you compare it just to the width of the TKL. It's tiny. So it's a little baby board. But we're pretty much ready to start soldering. So this is going to be a really quick solder job. But it's really kind of cool. I like also looking at the PCB. So it's made by Geon. Oh, cool. This is Canon Keys logo right here. So this PCB is probably, it was most likely a collaboration between Geon and Canon Keys. So that's really kind of cool. So awesome. I love the folks over at Canon Keys. So that's really nice. So thank you guys. So we're just making sure all of our switches are pushed in, and we should be good to go. And make sure we don't have any bent pins, because that's never good. Just making sure, and we're good. So all right, folks, let's fire up the soldering iron. So let's get the soldering iron fired up. Perfect. Soldering iron is fired up. We're gonna get my little vent going, and then we're gonna get these switches soldered in. So this is gonna be a fun time, everybody. There we go, friends. So, all right, let's get my solder out, and we'll get the soldering iron fired up. So this should be a really quick solder job. So this is a relatively quick board. We're literally only putting in about 35, 40 switches. So this is a really quick one. And again, we're also not dealing with troubleshooting switches because these are brand new production Cherry MX switches. So really nice. So what I like to do when I solder is I like doing the 4 corners first. That just kind of holds everything in, and then we just kind of work our way through each of the rows. So we only got 4 rows. So this is a very small board, so very easy to do. Awesome, looking good. All right, we got our first corner in. Let's go to our next corner over here. Awesome, really cool board. Perfect. This is again, very straightforward build. All right, one more corner, and then we're pretty much held in and ready to start doing the rest of the switches. So really nice stuff. Awesome. Perfect. Look at that, folks. Look at that. So we got our 4 corners in, so we're pretty much held in. So I want to do my bottom row, and then I'll kind of work my way back on the other rows. Bottom row has the least amount of switches, because it does have our giant space bars. It's funny, I use the word giant to describe a 40%. That's kind of an oxymoron. These are tiny boards. Cool. Got those. Let's do my other one. Perfect. Awesome. Almost done with the space bars. Perfect. We got our space bars done. That's pretty good. So again, we're making quick work of this board, everybody. It's this is a super straightforward, super easy build. So that's the nice thing I like about Cherry MX. These are really simple boards to do. Nothing too crazy about these boards. So really simple. Just doing my outward modifiers really quick. And then we'll work our way in. Awesome. Perfect. All right, folks. We're just going to work our way through the lines, and then almost done. This is a really quick build. I'm making quick work of this board, folks. So it's really quick, simple build. So I'm making very easy work of this board. Give me a second. I think I got a message, guys. Oh, we're good. Just checking a message. Thought I got a message in, so we're chilling. Looking good. So we got 2 more rows. Making very nice, quick work of this board. So really simple board to do, but a really fun board I'm excited to have. Looking good. Yeah, we're almost done. We're almost on the final row, folks, and then we'll be ready to get on out of here. This is a very quick build. Nothing too crazy, everybody. Cool. Awesome. Top row. Like 6 more switches, everybody. So going pretty good. We have like 3 more. Cool. All right, we are done soldering, folks. Again, that's really, really easy. Really, really easy. So one thing that's nice about Cherry MX builds, coming from having done so many Alps builds, is they're just so straightforward. So there we go. All our switches are soldered in. Oh, nice. So I'm going to get my case out, and we'll test everything first, and then we'll put everything in. So let me get my little daughter board in here. Okay, let's figure out how this goes. It's a very unusual it's a very unusual connector, so this is very proprietary. There we go. Got that. And then it's going to rest her in like that. Perfect. And then we'll put my top case on. Oh man, look at that. That looks sick. Look at that little board. So that's super sick. So we're going to screw everything in and then we'll do some testing. Actually, before we do that, probably want to test first. So let's get my USB-C cable and let's plug it in. All right, cool. So let's see how everything shapes up in terms of layout. Let's go to Vial. Should be a Vial PCB. If not, it's Vial. It should be VIA. Let's see. All right, it's going to be a VIA board. Okay, cool. Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. Okay, that's okay. Let's go to okay. Let's go to VIA. We are not popping up. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay, we have an interesting thing that's not popping up. Give me a minute. Let's huh. Interesting. Give me a second, folks. Not that one. Give me a second. Huh. Really weird. Okay, it's VIA. Okay. Interesting. We're just going to go into VIA and try the key tester. Cool, got him. Cool. All right, all of our keys work. There we go. So having a little bit of a hiccup. So let me get everything installed now. So sorry about that. So let's screw the case in, and then we'll install our keycaps, and we'll kind of explain what makes 40% kind of a pain in the butt. It really comes down to keycap selection. That's kind of the part that kind of sucks with them. So let me get my screwdriver. Let me put the correct bit on, and then we'll do that, and then we'll get on out of here, folks. We'll probably be out of here in the next, I don't know, 10 or so minutes. So it is a very quick build, folks. That's just the nice thing about going back to Cherry MX builds, is they don't take like several hours to do. So that's the nice thing. So very, very quick, very straightforward build. So we're just getting those in. Getting those screwed in, perfect. Awesome, so we'll put our little feetsies on. Now we can kind of take a look at this cute, adorable little board, because it is absolutely adorable. So, let's put that to the side because we're not using those anymore. Little Geon bag, but there we go, folks. Look at that. Isn't that adorable? So it's looking good. Let me just get a little cloth and we'll wipe that off because it is polished. So I want that to not be a fingerprint magnet, but it totally will be. There you go. So look at that polished accent. It says 722. So you got your USB-C port. You got your polished accent. You got your bottom. That's what we look on the bottom. Side profile. It is literally a wedge. So really cool board. So let's get our keycaps out. And we'll start going through keycaps. We'll start figuring out the keycap layout and whatnot. So let me get my keycaps. So again, we are going with GMK Dualshot, which is really cool. Really cool set. So I'll put my spacebar on. Yep, didn't get. There we go. Stabilizers sound really nice. Awesome. So we'll get our right shift, our function key, and then our Alt keys right here. And then we'll put our control keys right there. So you can see we have a Win keyless bottom rail. Look at that. Isn't that pretty cool? So let's put them in. So we'll do our key. So we'll start off with our top row with our alphas. So as you notice with 40%, there are no numbers. So the way you navigate 40% is you are utilizing layers. So you use this function key or one of your space bars, and you have to just kind of set up layers for numbers and function row in a way that makes sense to you, or other keys just so it makes sense. So layers are going to be your friend when you're dealing with 40%. So that's the nice thing. So we are going to have a lot of layers set up on this particular board just so we can have full access to most of our keys. And that's just one of the quirks with 40% that kind of makes them a little more obscure compared to other keycap sets. So that's just kind of an important thing to note, but we're going to kind of work with it. But it's a really cool little build, and this is a board I have been waiting for a very, very long time. So we're putting our main alpha cluster on here first, and then we'll put in our modifier keys, and that's where we're going to I'm kind of going to explain why these are kind of a pain in the ass in terms of keycaps. All right. That one and then that one. Cool. All right, so we have our main cluster. Now we got to find our smaller keycaps. So we're gonna go through and find some of our 40s. So it's gonna be our enter. There we go. Let's look for our tab right here. Perfect. And then we need our shift. Where the heck are you? Right here. There we go. And then we need to find our escape and then our backspace. So backspace, escape. Let's just make sure those profiles are correct. And we are. So I think we are good to go. I don't think there's any other keycaps we can really do on this one. Especially, let me look at some of my colored keycaps. I do have some colored novelties and accents, so none of my space bars are gonna work. Could do a blue shift right there, but I think we're gonna keep. All right, I think we're gonna put some accents on here and see what we can do. All right. Let me see. I think we're gonna make our shift. I'm gonna do a little bit of color on this. So we're gonna take our shifts, and we're gonna add some blue to this board. So it's a very neutral board, so that's the one nice thing about it. So we're going to add a little splash of color to this particular board. So we're going to have that shift right there, and then we're going to have that one right there. So I think that adds a little bit of nice little color to it. There's no real other color accents with the keycap set that I can really do, unfortunately. So that's just kind of the thing with 40%. So we're very limited on keycap compatibility, especially with your modifier keys. As you can see right here, these modifier keys are very small and very obscure things. So if you're looking at a 40%, you're really going to want to check what keycap set you're going to be using. Again, I'm a big fan of GMK. Now, when it comes to GMK, finding a keycap set that supports a 40% keyboard can kind of be a pain in the butt. There's not as much 40% support with GMK sets. Only a very handful of GMK sets have really good 40%. Two other companies that are really good for 40% are going to be Keykobo. Keykobo sets usually have these kind of weird keycap sizes for your modifiers. And also PBT fans from the people over at KBD fans. The PBT fans, they usually have designated add-on kits that are really, really good at giving you full 40% support. So that's just something to note when you kind of look at the keycaps. So I'm just going to put these ones back. Oops, I dropped one. I think adding that blue really gives the board a nice little splash of color. So let me put my Dualshot set to the side, and then we'll do a little sound test. So I think that's really cool. I like having that blue accent. Gives the board some nice little color. So let me take my little work mat away. But yeah, here you go. And I'll kind of do a size comparison too, just to kind of show you how ridiculous and how small this board is. So pull the big board away. But yeah, sorry, there you go. So that's a 40%. So that's a full-size TKL. This is a 40%. So it's a little itty-bitty baby. I'll kind of bring out some other 40% just to show them on stream that I have that are kind of crazy. So I'll bring them out. So I have some other 40s coming, but so I'll show you my other 40s. I'll put my TKL to the side. But again, this is the Geon 40. This is the minivan. This is kind of what many people kind of consider to be like one of the best 40% ever made. So really simple. It's literally just a little rectangle, but it's cool because it has a minivan. So really cool. Really fun board. Really fun board. I have GMK panels on here. This is a Singa board. This is the Singa Neko. So this has GMK Symbiote and Gateron blue bubblegum switches. Really nice and clacky. Really nice clacky sound profile. And then this is my Jackie Design High Ton 40. This board is unapologetically massive for being a 40%. It's like the size of a 60%, but it's awesome. So these are my 40%. I'll kind of slide them over more in frame just so you can see them. But I have another 40%. I have two 40% on group buy. So I have the Lazy Designers Duo 40, which is going to be really cool. And I just purchased an Agar Mini, which is a Topre full brass keyboard, which is going to come later this year. So these are my 40%, folks. But let's do it. We haven't done a sound test of the particular Geon one. So let me move my other 40s out of the way. And we'll focus on our Geon one just to kind of give it a nice little accent. But this is a really cool little board. I've been waiting months for this board, so this board is freaking awesome. So let's do a little sound test. So let me adjust my microphone, bring her on down. All right, folks, so let's do it. All right, folks. There we go. Nice. I told this was going to be a super short stream, so let's move my microphone back to the position I like having it. But there we go, folks. That is the again. This is the GeonWorks F1-40 722. Really, really cool board. I love having this. I'm so happy to finally have this in my collection. But it's really kind of cool, and I love my little blue accents right here. So thank you so much for those of you who tuned in. It was a fun time, but really, really fun build, everybody. So thank you so much.